in the whole of Well, the coronation of the new Oni is a watershed in the history of the Yoruba land generally, and Ife in particular. Now, because they have a leader now, that will... Simply put, Gura is a beautiful countryside with awesome landscapes. If something differently would be done to the Nigerian textile industries, that our youth will be employed. Attend the church here can tell you.
Service in Holy Rosa is in
We are taking a canoe tour of the communities on the bank of River Niger in Getso.
Badagry strikes me as one of those beautiful settlements in the coastlines of the Caribbean islands. My image of the Caribbean islands springs out of the several pictures I came into contact with reading history books. So when we arrived at Badagry this time, the contrast was striking. Badagry is a dead ringer for municipalities in the Caribbean. The images of lush, tall and elegant trees close to the sea are some of the points of contrast for me. Images apart, Badagry and the Caribbean were witnesses and active participants to some of the development that shaped crucial periods in world history. On this score, this is as much as I shall tarry with the Caribbean. My main area of interest is Badagry. Badagry is in Lagos State. It instantly comes forward as an ancient township. Ancient indeed it is, and historical too. Modern Badagry is a local government headquarters. It has perspectives that richly define modern urban centers, road networks, organized systems such as banks, markets and global connectivity. It thrives as linkway to some border towns en route to Cotonou in Benin Republic. My interest with the Badagry emanates from the story that it was a hopeful slave trade during that dark period in world history, when some countries of the world delved into trade of slaves. The story goes as well that there are extant materials and monuments from that period and cognate to the events of the period stashed in Badagry. I could not wait to see those materials and monuments. My guide in Badagry is Ezekiel. I go with his first name. His second name is 13 letters. 9 are consonants. I appreciate his knowledge of the rather obvious outlay of the slave trade, but any question on peculiar cases, dates, and standing apart stories go unanswered. In any case, he gave us a head start and took us on a trip to the slave routes, the routes through which slaves were transported through the Atlantic out of their homeland to the New World during that dark period of slave trade.
The story is about the story of slave trade. It's about the role Badagry played during the slave trade. Badagry is an ancient monument. It's an ancient town with an ancient history. And one of the ancient stories of Badagry is the fact that it has been used as a transit camp, as a depot for slave trade. And at that time, when the Portuguese came, the English came, and many people that were engaged in slave trade came, they allowed the local chiefs around this place to gather slaves for them from the hinterland. And when they do, the slaves usually pass through this water, this lagoon. That is one of the significance of the lagoon we are going to tell you. But it is not like that. When it passes, it will go and link up with the sea. Whichever slaves leave this place and links up with the sea, it's never coming back. That is why they call it the point of no return. When we go now, we will come back. But that's the story we are going to tell you now. Just trying to recreate that part of our story, that part of our history.
We were kitted for the boat crossing of the lagoon. Obviously, the lagoon was there for as long as the ocean was. It was one of the inevitable crossings the slaves had to take for their transport to the Atlantic. On the other end of the lagoon were rural communities waiting to cross for Badagry market. Those days are market days in Badagry. For us, it is transit to retread those routes through which slaves were transported to the sea for the New World. Our progress was unhindered.
This is an iconic route in Badagry. It is the route that used to transport slaves to the Atlantic Ocean. It is the route to the gate of no return. This is it. It is extensive and almost 20-25 kilometers long. Obviously, there is a memorandum there, something that will remind people that this is the route here. It must have been constructed by some monumental organizations or other things like that. But it is here, and it's a reminder of the route. But obviously, the route is just right on. You can move on. The slaves used to move on to the Atlantic. But see this signboard. It reads, Badagry slave route. This is the route of the journey to unknown destination, original slave route. Now that is the route we are going to follow. But it is not going to be easy to follow this 25 to 30 kilometer route on foot. So we are going to hire a chapaman or Okada people to take us there. And that's what we do. So I'll wait here and wait for the Okada people to come and carry us. We are on our route.
Eventually, we secured motorcycle rides through the slave routes to the point of no return. Mercifully, the routes were adequately generated in writing. One can hardly miss his routes. Moving on, we arrived at a well where Ezekiel told us is a well where slaves on transit were allowed to drink, which means this well may be over 400 years old. Ezekiel has no data of the active period of slave trade in Badagry anyway. It is sad we missed the audio of our interview with Ezekiel here, but he told us that taking water here by the slave was not as straightforward as it seemed then. Chieftains of various sections of Badagry who profit from the trade in slaves conspired to charm the water. It was such that whichever slave takes from the water, he immediately loses memory and becomes disoriented. His fate is ultimately sealed. Not far from the well is a point of no return. I cannot imagine how the well looks like during the active period of slave trade. But today, the well has undergone structural changes and it is sheltered, apparently to safeguard it. Cattle routes were also built along this historical route through to the sea to support the grazing population of the area. I looked deep through the well water and I just wondered to myself whether the water is still charmed. We anchored our motorcycles at the point of no return. Apparently, this is a point on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. It is like saying the moment a slave is brought to the shore of the Atlantic, he is beyond rescue. A few meters away, the Atlantic was making a noise of his presence. Except for the unending flow of waves, this side of the Atlantic by the Badagry side is expressionless. The mere looking at it, you cannot fathom that from this side thousands of slaves were transported from Badagry to the New World. If only this side of the Atlantic could share its experience with us. While we are enjoying the view of the Atlantic, Ezekiel told us that the slave ships do not anchor at the shore. No, they do not, he said. They anchor farther into the sea. Rather, small boats evacuate the slaves from the Atlantic shore and transport them to the slave ships in the high sea. Slave routes in Badagry are fixed landmarks. There exist in the city archival materials kept by individuals from those periods of slavery. We visited one of them where a brilliant young girl is in charge. They have several relics preserved from the periods of active slavery.
Well, in Badagry, there are so many organizations that keep slave relics. This is a mobile slave relic museum in Badagry, and the curator or the person who is in charge is my sister here, Bilki. Bilki has taken pain to explain various works of the chains here, because they are slave chains that dated back to that dark period of slavery, over 500 years ago. Bilki is making this explanation. Obviously, Bilki says there are more than one kind of there is more than one kind of chain, and they serve different purposes. Bilki, sorry, I don't have to take you back, but you said there is a chain by which you are tied on your neck.
Yes, sir.
Okay, which you show me just briefly. Okay.
And this is it?
Okay, this is the chain for your neck. It's a slave's neck. It goes on like this, right?
Yes, sir.
And it is very heavy, I must tell you. Those slaves did not enjoy this one bit. And then obviously there is the one for the leg, which is tied together with the leg.
Like this.
Like this. So they are merged. They are merged on two slaves. So they cannot escape for whatever purpose. They cannot escape for whatever reason. And then there is what they call branding and bone breaker. That is according to Bilkis, right?
Yes,
That means if a slave, if a slave master is trying, because most of the slaves, the slave masters would like to identify their own slaves. So usually they put a pair brand and put it on this. So they mark them on the back to identify that this belongs to us. And then this also serves as a bone breaker. Bone breaker is such a way that, which Bilkis showed me, that I can put my legs here. Bilkis had a stone, which she shows. No. Oh, okay, what will happen that if a slave is trying to betray his master or to escape, what they do is to put this thing on the top of his leg, and then it will be beaten like this. It will break his leg. When other slaves sees it, they know that it is not easy running away, and they never would run away. There are also other chains which Bilki will explain to me. The one that is being tied to the mouth, right, Bilki?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this one is tied to the slave mouth, so that he doesn't talk, he doesn't eat, and he doesn't other things like that. And then the one they call baby
link.
Baby link. She said, Bilkis said it is small but mighty. That is how she described it. So that, because if a woman is pregnant, when a baby is born, Bilkis said that is bonus for the slave master, and the child will have to be brought a long distance. So these are as much as we know about chains. As far as Bilkis' explanation is concerned, Bilkis was making an explanation of one last bit. And what is one last bit, Bilkis?
One last?
You say there is one last chain, right?
Yes, which is a raised class.
Yeah.
That the hand of a stubborn slave will be forced through this hole to the wrist. And you know my can go easily.
Yes.
You know some of the slaves have big hands. They don't mind breaking the bones of the slaves. They'll still force it to the wrist. Then the pin pad is screwed up to a very high tree. The leg of slave suspended from the ground. The slave remained hung on the wrist from morning to night, pending the time the master released him from her.
Okay, but I think this much about chains. You showed me a cannon as well. This is a very mini cannon, obviously.
This is a very small cannon gun, and it was exchanged for 40 strong men.
Exchange?
For 40 strong men.
So you give it to a local chief?
Yes, and the chief will give them, the white men, 40 strong men in exchange of this small cannon gun.
Does it work?
Yes.
At that time, I mean?
Yes, and it's basically used for announcements. Like they shot it twice daily, the morning, afternoon, and night. In the morning and afternoon, announcing to community people to leave the road the slaves were going and coming back from the farm. And lastly, in night, announcing curfew. Everybody should stay indoor.
Don't come out.
Anybody caught outside after that time, 8:30 p.m., definitely become a slave. And most times, it's a stranger that caught as slaves.
This is a really archival things like that. Because are you a historian? Did you read history?
Nope.
Okay.
I was trained by my boss.
Okay. You are a curator? Did you know a curator, a kind of curator or something like that?
Curator, no sir.
Okay. I can see a big pot here. Let's go. What is this bowl?
This is a slave drinking water bowl. That over 50 slaves drink water from this bowl at a go.
50?
Yes, over 50 of them drink water at a go. I remember they are chained. They have to learn to eat, to scoop water with their mouths. At times, the edge of the bowl cuts them, their blood as well spits in the water. They still sick like animals. That's how they drink water.
So this is a drinking vessel?
Yes.
those slaves. And obviously, oh, look at some beautiful monuments. You have some beautiful. How did you keep them? How did you get them?
Yes, according to history and according to my report, the chains were rescued by Chief Sumbu Mobi.
Well, one thing I should like you to understand, Bilkisu could make out a good historian and a good curator, but she said that she has been trained by her master. So Bilki is just an acolyte. But then how do you fancy her being in a history class or being a curator in a national museum or something like that? Bilki, thank you very much. That's a beautiful thing you have done for us. We are grateful.
As far as slave trade is concerned, the role played by Badagry is beyond the preservation of ancient slave routes or collection of 1 or 2 relics. The story is miles beyond that, but that is as much as we can lay our hands on. This also reinforces the historical importance of Badagry, but the historical importance of Badagry is not limited to the events of slave trade alone. There is a monument in Badagry which locals here believed is the first story building in Nigeria. This is particularly interesting to me because coming from the north of the country, I always felt that advanced building technology in Nigeria precedes 1845 when this story building in Badagry was built. I fancied that trade contact with the Arabs across the trans-Saharan routes may have influenced building technology, especially building of story building centuries earlier than 1845 in Nigeria. In any case, this in Badagry is the #1 story building in Nigeria, and it is still standing.
Now, this is the story building we are talking about. It is a 1-story building.
Oh, this is the missionary house called the first story building in the whole of Nigeria, but built by the missionary in 1845.
Okay.
The name of the Reverend missionary building this house called Reverend C.A. Goldman. Reverend C.A. Goldman building the house in 1845.
The building is over 170 years and still standing. Does it stand with the integrity of the materials of its foundation?
Anything that we change about the building, we'd always normally put a date on it, because the different people that come from different countries to also see our ancient and the monument that we have in Badagry. So now we like to show you the materials used for the construction of the building.
Okay.
And according to the history of those missionaries, we have been told that all materials was imported from England.
All the materials used for the building were imported from England. Okay.
Now, the first materials called the burnt brick since 1842.
This one?
These
burnt brick?
Yes, since 1842. Imported from England.
And it looks very strong.
Very, very, very strong, sir.
And this one you can even build a very strong house with this one, even as it is.
Definitely, sir. So if you want to look at it look at the floor.
Okay.
The floors that you're going to see in the red block used to load some of the foundations. The foundations.
So it's like a decking.
Yes, to the upside, you can see it, sir.
Edical told us the building is 1-story building with 6 bedrooms, 2 parlors, and 4 stores. There were some necessities that were missing from it though.
What we discovered that there is no toilet inside of the building.
Yes.
No kitchen inside of the building. No bathroom inside of the story building.
How do they do that? Tell me.
So we found the structures.
Eh?
We found the structures outside.
Okay.
The structure of the bedroom, the structure of the kitchen, and the structure of the
toilet. Okay.
The building house.
They have collapsed before when you came. But they are all outside the building themselves. What of the church? I've not seen a church. There is no
church. It was built in this compound, but it also collapsed.
Okay.
But we have something to.
What makes this place to survive for that period? Let's go. You are showing us the upstairs, right?
Then we still have some of the missionaries are also living inside of this building.
Okay.
But the missionary that we're talking about, we are talking about some of the African or chiefs.
Okay.
I mean, the African, they are well reverend. African reverend.
You know, we're not white men now.
Not white men.
Black men.
So the black men also living inside of this building.
Okay.
So it was around 1970 something. These are really converted to a monument That's so people.
So this is a monument now for visitation.
Although this building was built by missionaries, it did not house missionaries alone. The first teacher in Badagry had his room in this house. It is a moving story of he who was and who his students were.
Claudius Phillips established the first primary school in Badagry. So you can see what they wrote about the man. The first Western teacher. The first Western teacher, because it was one that introduced Western education to us. He established the school in 1845. The first primary school was established in 1845.
Why is that?
The school is still standing. The school established with 40 men.
40
men, not children, not even women, only men. Adult education. So the men that started the primary school, this man giving all the age of the 40 men that started the primary school. Age of the men started the primary school, they start primary school at the age of 45 years. And each of those 40 men is spending 12 years in primary school.
Although that is around 57.
Around 57.
One of the bedrooms in this house is keeping in custody the first Yoruba translation of the Bible. It was translated in 1847. It is kept side by side with a copy of King James version of the Bible. This copy of the Bible was there a little earlier than the Yoruba version. It was there since 1845. In another of the 6 bedrooms is a painting of the early Christian practice in Badagry.
Under this tree, a missionary first preached under the Agia tree. And under this tree, the missionaries celebrated the first Christmas. Under the tree.
Where is it now?
The tree is no more standing.
Oh my God.
But the monument that's been representing the falling of the Agia tree still there now to show us. Now, so under the tree, the missionary preached and celebrated the Christmas under this tree called Agia tree.
Ezekiel still conducts us round a well constructed by those early missionaries. It was built in 1845 too and served the water needs of those pioneers and still is in operation. Believe me, the water is clean, tasteless and odorless. And the well has been there from 1842. You talk of history, and you talk of a monument, and you talk of water for the people to drink. Thank you. These are parts of the stories of Badagry. It would be unfair to say bye to the town, however, without a word about its worth in coconut. This is a town that supplies over 70% of the coconut needs of Nigeria. At least that is what is believed by the locals here. It is a business that every household is directly or indirectly involved in for hundreds of years.
Well, one of the agricultural products of Badagry community is coconut seed. As you can see around, you can see that the community is blessed with this seed. We have different marketers coming from different parts of the country, people from the north, from the Ibadan, from Sokoto or Ife. They do come here with their trucks.
But like how many trucks do you load every day that go out of this place?
Well, today is not actually the real market day. In the real market day, we load about 10 trucks.
Women constitute the main group in the market. For them, coconut is all about their lives.
With a small idea coconut side.
That's how many years?
You don't 50 years, old 15 years now.
You do this business?
Yes. I did like 7 years. I don't start this coconut.
And all this time you have been doing it?
Yes.
Tell me, how has it been these years you have been doing it?
Hey, this coconut is family to help family. If you like me now, the way I plug for small, it's still there. I dey plug every time, every 3 months. Every day I dey carry coconut come for market. Every day I dey get gain.
Now your own?
Now my papa own with my mama own.
Like how many trees do you have?
My family is a half coconut, like it be 1 truck 1 month. If you want plug it.
1 truck 1 month?
Yes.
And you get the market, people come and buy?
But people, this market, people will come, they will come buy.
I was told today no be market.
Today be market. I carry coconut come out, see, don't say.
As you come now, you sell. You don't collect. You don't put your money
Yes,
in the pocket.
yes.
Oh, so what do you want to see improved? What do you want to see improved in the business today?
The business now, I need help, because if a person get money, go do the business, get money. But now no money. Everybody we know say we dey manage now. So all the woman no money. If another woman come, we go borrow her money, go buy, carry am come market, sell. Put your gain. Now so everybody they do now, but you need gain. I need help for government hands.
But the thing you have been doing it and it's fine. You did
Yes,
shop.
you dey shop. Oh, my pikin dey shop. My pikin dey go school. They go work. I dey shop. Everybody for woman the way they sell coconut. If you dey sell her, you go dey street food.
In sum, Badagry summarizes a period in the history of slave trade in Nigeria, of early missionary activities, and is still a national leader in the cultivation of marketing of coconut.
Technology, the mother of all inventions, has influenced various aspects of human existence that in numerous difficulties has been brought to the barest level. Travel as a form of communication has been made simple through the invention of the motor car, which can travel 7 miles in a very short time. Due to various irregularities